This video was sponsored by CuriosityStream in partnership with my streaming service Nebula. Hey, happy Friday. This week I'll talk about Oracle trolling the entire tech industry by pretending to be interested in buying TikTok. I'll talk about the weird return of BlackBerry phones, and I'll also talk about how the US government is crushing even the last hopes of Huawei to buy chips from outside companies like MediaTek, for example. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. As always, we also have a weekly tech knowledge quiz that is linked down in the description, so take it if you want to test your tech knowledge, and let's get started. Alright, my pick of the week is going to be enterprise software giant Oracle apparently being in serious talks with TikTok about an acquisition. And I'm sure that by now you've heard that US President Trump is pressuring TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, to sell off all of their international assets to a foreign buyer, probably somebody from the US, and now we have a new bidder. Oracle is a really confusing buyer at first because this company is well known for making really old school enterprise software, stuff like database software, enterprise resource planning software, HR, accounting, supply chain management for really big corporate customers like banks and whatnot. So why would a company like this be interested in buying a company and an app like TikTok? And the answer, I think, is that Oracle doesn't actually want to buy TikTok, they're just really good at trolling. See, the thing about TikTok is that even though the company is for sale, in the sense that they're being forced to sell, even though this company is for sale, there's not actually a whole lot of companies that could realistically buy it. First, TikTok is apparently worth $50 billion for having over 1 billion users and for having extremely fast user growth. That is a lot of money, which means that smaller competitors like Twitter and Snapchat probably couldn't realistically buy it, even with a lot of help from outside players. And surprisingly, also a lot of the really big American tech companies are out of the race too. Apple's brand and business model is fundamentally incompatible with running a big ad-supported social media network. Google and Facebook would likely not be allowed to buy TikTok for antitrust concerns. You don't really want even more consolidation in the online ad market. Amazon would likely not be given the green light because Trump hates Bezos and he likely would somehow veto it, which really only leaves Microsoft. I could still come up with a lot of reasons for why Microsoft shouldn't buy or shouldn't be allowed to buy TikTok, but anyway, they are the clear frontrunner for sure. And what happens when you only have one credible buyer for an incredibly important asset that also has to be sold pretty much right away? You get a really low price. And there's two groups of people who do not want Microsoft to get a low price on TikTok. Existing investors who, of course, don't want their assets to be devalued and sold at a low price. They would very much like to make a lot of money. And, of course, competitors of Microsoft who do not want Microsoft to make an insanely great deal for no reason whatsoever. So enter Oracle, who I think has pretty much nothing to do with TikTok, but has 3 key things going for it. First, Oracle makes $40 billion a year in revenue, which means they're one of the only companies in the world who could even realistically afford to buy TikTok. Second, they actually are direct competitors of Microsoft, which means they'd very much like to hurt them whenever possible. And third, the CEO of Oracle has frequently given money to Trump, which means that likely there wouldn't be much political resistance to them getting the deal either. In other words, Oracle can actually convincingly pretend to be a serious buyer. Now, I don't actually think they are a serious buyer. I think they just got together with the existing investors of TikTok to actually drive the purchase price of TikTok up. That will benefit the investors. Obviously, that will hurt Microsoft, which in turn will benefit Oracle. And that's, I guess, the whole trolling. So that's pretty smart, I guess. And congratulations on the trolling. And my win of the week is going to be that BlackBerry is back. And I'm saying BlackBerry in air quotes here because the actual BlackBerry company hasn't made a smartphone in many years now. But after their last licensing deal with Chinese phone maker TCL, which made the Key 1 and Key 2 after that kind of fizzled out and failed, now they're trying it again with a new licensing partner. This partner is called Onward Mobility. It is a new company that was set up not long ago in Austin, Texas. Apparently it is somewhat related, according to PC Mag, to another Texas-based smartphone company called Sony that made these ruggedized smartphones, and the phone that this onboard mobility company wants to bring to the market is a new BlackBerry phone running Android with a physical keyboard with what they call flagship specs. Onboard Mobility basically appears to be copy-pasting the business model of H&D Global, which is the company that revived the Nokia brand. The idea is exactly the same. They take an old brand from a very nostalgic company that doesn't make smartphones anymore, but a lot of people still yearn for it. They take that brand and then they actually find a manufacturing partner. In this case, it's even the exact same manufacturing partner called FIH, which is a subsidiary of Foxconn, and they collaborate with them to actually make the devices. It's unclear whether the actual BlackBerry company would be involved with this project at all. I guess not a whole lot, since they are a shadow of their former selves by now. And it's also unclear how much control FIH would have over the hardware, at least, versus Onboard Mobility. We just don't know. I don't think this model worked out too well for H&D Global, and I also can't imagine tons and tons of people wanting to have a physical keyboard on a phone these days anymore. But the BlackBerry forums sure seem to be super happy about the revival. I guess the CEO at least seems to be really focused on a niche of enterprise customers and safety and security, so I guess that's good. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about it. And my fail of the week is going to be something that I actually predicted 2 weeks ago in the Friday checkout, although I didn't expect it to happen this quickly, and it is Huawei losing access to chips from MediaTek. Just a super quick recap. Huawei used to design a lot of the chips for their own devices. They called them Kirin, and they actually had them manufactured by an outside contractor from Taiwan called TSMC. The US government basically looked at TSMC and said, you guys are using US technologies to manufacture chips for Huawei. Can't let that happen, cut ties, no more Kirin chips. So Huawei looked around and was like, okay, we're gonna find some off-the-shelf chips from MediaTek. We're just gonna buy from them now. Then the US government looked at MediaTek this week and was like, you guys also use a lot of US tech to make your chips, can't supply Huawei anymore. There's apparently basically a loophole in the previous ban that didn't quite spell out whether off-the-shelf components could also not be sold to Huawei, but as I said in my video 2 weeks ago, those are loopholes that if the government wanted to plug them, they could, and they did. Huawei apparently stocked up on up to 9 million Kirin 1020 chips from TSMC before the ban. Apparently that's what they're gonna use in their upcoming flagship, probably in the Mate series. But they were supposed to order, apparently, 120 million chips from MediaTek, and that is just such a huge amount. There's not a good substitute for that. And the way these loopholes have been plugged actually make it seem like all the other makers of microchips, including memory chip makers like Samsung and SK Hynix, as well as image sensor makers like Sony, might not be allowed to supply Huawei further either. And that is the really scary stuff. If you lose all of your suppliers because of the US ban, that is something that would bring any company, including Huawei, to its knees. Now, if there's anything that this Huawei ban has taught me, and hopefully you as well, it is that trusting one's entire business on an external entity that one can't control is incredibly risky. And that is a big reason why I've teamed up with a bunch of your favorite educational YouTubers to create a platform for ourselves called Nebula. Nebula is a video streaming service built and owned by us, the creators, including channels like Polymatter, Wendover Productions, Real Engineering, Low Spec Gamer, and like 100 others. It's our corner of the internet where we don't have to worry about demonetization, upsetting the magical YouTube algorithm, invading your privacy, or anything else. We can just focus on making really good content for you, while you can focus on just the content instead of the endless barrage of ads. My videos from both of my channels are up on Nebula, completely ad-free of course, and TechAltar ones even release a day early there. There are tons of really great originals on Nebula, like hour-long documentaries from Wendover Productions, a series on the logistics of D-Day by Real Engineering, or Money, which is an original game show developed by the one and only Tom Scott, and access to Nebula comes for free with a subscription to CuriosityStream, which itself is 26% off right now, so you get both services for just over $1 a month. CuriosityStream is, of course, the premier location on the internet for high-quality professional documentaries from the founder of the Discovery Channel, and they have a huge library of science, nature, and history content to binge while you are stuck at home. I've recently finished watching Flight of the Dragon on CuriosityStream, which is a documentary on NASA and SpaceX. And there's tons of other great content here from hosts like David Attenborough, Jane Goodall, Stephen Hawking, and more. So check them out in the link in the description, and I'll see you next week.